Did you ever wonder really how real estate agents get paid? You hear a lot about uh, real estate agents and their commissions and who's paying what, but sometimes a lot of it really isn't understood well. We're going to do a three-part series here to talk about how the breakdown of commissions are handled between sellers, buyers, agents, and brokers. So stay tuned in this three-part series. If you've been working with a real estate agent or a realtor um, on either selling a home or buying a home, we hope that at some point in time they had a dialogue with you about their fee, how they're paid, the fee that they're going to charge to sell your home, or the fee that they charge to help you buy your home, and how that gets paid. And if they haven't that dialogue with you, they really are doing you a disservice, and they really need to spend as much time as you need to understand about how that breakdown is. We're going to do a series here just to give you some understanding of how that breakdown really occurs, what's going on in today's market, some changes that may be taking place as we go forward sometime in the future, timeline unknown when. But we want to make sure that you have as much information as possible so you can understand really how all of this money is being dispersed out and paid out to the relevant parties. So let's do a breakdown here of what we call the agency agreements. So in most cases, there's an agency relationship that is created between the client, could be a seller, could be a buyer, and the brokerage. The agent is an agent for the brokerage, but most of your agency agreements are with that broker or that broker's office, of which then the agent acts as a designated agent or representative for you on behalf of that brokerage. Let's talk first about a listing agreement, an agreement that a seller has with a listing agent and their brokerage. The broker or agent will outline the duties and responsibilities that they're going to do for a fee. They're going to help you get your home prepared. They're going to get the home marketed. They're going to show the home to prospective buyers or have buyers come in and take a look at the home. They're going to help with the offer. They're going to help with the negotiations. They're going to help get all the municipal elements and the lending elements all work through so that we can get you to a settlement. Okay, that's the objective, sell the home. They will lay that all out and they're going to say, I'm going to do it for some fee, often a percentage of the sale price. So the importance of this agency agreement, one, is that they are a fiduciary to that seller, meaning they have to put the seller's interests over and above anybody else's interest, including their own. All within the law, of course. They can't do something that's illegal, but they have to make sure that your interests as a seller are first and foremost. Your interests come first as a seller. Often in these listing agreements, there will be a section that will indicate if the seller's broker is going to recognize that if there is a buying broker on the other side, that listing broker / agent will share that commission with that buying broker / agent. Okay. Now there may be certain characteristics or certain criteria that must be met first in order for that to take place. So if the listing broker says that they will charge you X% to sell your home, they may put in there and saying that if a buyer comes through that's represented by an agent that has a buyer's agency agreement in place and the buying broker is a member of the MLS of which this home is listed, and the buyer's agent brought that buyer, procured that buyer, and brought that to that home to put together an offer, then the listing broker will share a portion of that X commission with that buying broker. And that is what is done the majority of time in most cases. Most of the times the homes are on the MLS because that is the broadest place to put homes. And just as an aside, but so you understand, someone will say, well, why don't you just put it on Zillow? Zillow gets the majority of their homes from the MLSs across the country. The feeds from the MLS go to Zillow, and that is where the data, where Zillow gets the data about your house being on the market. So almost all of the internet sites take a syndicated feed from the MLSs across the nation. That's how buyers usually are becoming aware of your home, because it is in the MLS. Keep in mind, this is the listing broker saying that they are going to share some of their commission or their fee with that buying broker / agent. The seller is not paying the buyer's broker's agent. The listing broker is. If there is no buying broker or these conditions aren't met, then that listing agent is still getting that entire fee. They're just not sharing it with anybody. That's something to keep in mind. That is the basic construct of what takes place on the listing broker side. Let's go take a look at what's on the buying broker side. Okay, let's talk about now what takes place on the buying side. A buyer who is working with an agent who's working for the broker will enter into a buyer's agency agreement. Okay, this is where the broker / agent is saying that they are going to perform certain activities and actions on behalf of the buyer in exchange for a fee. They will help the buyer get access into the MLS. They'll help the buyer understand the nature of the properties they're looking at, looking through disclosures, understand past sales of the property, understand valuations of those properties, making sure that the buyer is aware of factors about the property that could impact long-term saleability or value, potentially help the buyer find a lender, help the buyer work through the lending process, write the offers, help them through inspections, help them negotiate inspections, appraisals, etc. All of these actions on behalf of the buyer. The buyer's broker / agent is also a fiduciary to the buyer, so that the interests of the buyer have to come first and foremost above the interests of anybody else, including that agent or broker. In that buyer's agency agreement, of which you should have with your broker and your agent, okay, so that they do act as your fiduciary, so that they do keep your information confidential, so they can help you through this process and put your interests first. Okay, there's going to be some stipulations in the agreement that says that their services are not free. That they'll say that the buyer will pay the negotiated fee when they're properly represented by a real estate broker / agent. You'll pay the fee when the property is not represented by a real estate broker. And you may have a way for the buyer's fee to get paid for by the listing side. So there'll be language in there. It says that the buyer's broker agent, okay, may get compensation offered by the listing broker, which we will see in the MLS. Okay, so in most cases, the buyer broker / agent may accept the entire fee offered by the listing broker, and that the buyer does not owe the buying broker any additional money. Sometimes there may be stipulations in there that says that they will accept a fee from the listing broker as long as the minimum amount as defined in the buyer's agency agreement has been met. And if it has not, then the buyer will owe the buying broker the difference. You have to keep in mind the seller is not paying the buyer's broker / agent's fee. Okay? The listing broker is, or the buyer is. Okay, so those are key elements to understand. And this has been in place for 30 some years now. So here is a common scenario, probably the most prevalent. where we have a seller and a buyer. We have the seller who has the property, has the keys, and we have the buyer who has the money in exchange for that property. And we have the seller represented by the listing broker. We have the buyer represented by the buying broker. The seller pays a fee to the listing broker, and the buyer owes a fee to the buying broker. Now, when the transaction is consummated, here is what the usual scenario is. When the deal settles, the seller is going to pay the listing broker the fee as is described in the listing contract. The listing broker is going to share the fee with the buying broker, okay, which, for the most part, satisfies the buyer's obligation to the buying broker, and the buyer no longer owes a fee to the buyer's broker. This is what happens in 90 plus some odd percent of all transactions that take place, especially transactions that take place with the MLS. We will go over scenarios in subsequent videos to talk about what happens if it's not in the MLS or they're not represented by an agent or broker. But for the most part, this is what takes place. So I hope this helps you understand a little bit of the foundation about the monies, the fees, who's paying whom, and how they are broken up as the transaction takes place. Stay tuned for our next videos as we get into this in more detail.